All right, yeah. Since we are like 10 minutes late already, maybe let's just get started with a round of updates, and then maybe by the time we get to actual discussions, somebody from Viper gonna join. So welcome everyone back to the EOF call. Let's start with
Should we start recording?
It is recording already. It
Oh,
has
it
been.
is. Oh, the whole time. Got it.
All right, let's yeah, Dano, you're on the top on the list right now, so maybe you can
Okay.
go client update.
So I've been updating the base implementation based off of Shanghai. I'm trying to get it in line with where we're at. I've been running differential testing against the Create 3 branch of EVM1. There's still between the two of us, there's still a lot of things that we don't fully commit to. I haven't committed the full Create 3 implementation yet, but there's also some other corner cases that I think the base is correct on that EVM1 doesn't have implemented yet. Like there's some things about crossing the delegate call barrier into legacy that should be rejected. So there's minor calls like that, but the stuff that we agree on have got us up to the point where Besu and EVM1 mostly agree. A lot of the changes I had to do that are changes from Shanghai relate to moving the container and the data kinds, moving the container before the data and changing numbers from 3 to 4. Since data is a mandatory section, I had to update nearly all of the validation tests to fix that. The only ones I didn't have to update were the ones where the data was missing, it was invalid. So pretty much all of them that are valid. Also, all the R jump tests when we went from a one base list size to a zero base list size. I had to update some of those tests. Got rid of a whole class of tests about jump table too short. Since we can have a zero link, jump table of 0 is maximum index 0, so that's one link. So got rid of an entire error case there, but I also had to update all of the jump test tests again. But after I worked through those two items, I got most of and updating the tests. For the basic opcode, interoperability, EVM1 and Besu are mostly aligned. So in that, we probably need to update some of the reference tests once we seal the specification and lock it down and get it to the point where we're not changing it again. So that's what's been going on in Besu in the past week.
Awesome. That's a lot of updates. Anyone have any feedback or question to this? All right, then let's go over to Nethermind. Ayman, you want to go next, please?
Okay, can you hear me, guys?
Yep, it works.
Okay, so for Nethermind, we actually completed a draft implementation of the spec. And right now we are verifying it like line by line we are going through the opcodes and the new type of transaction validation to see if we missed something and if something is wrong. And yeah, that's mostly it. Also, we are upgrading our tests from the previous version since they don't work anymore. And yeah, that's it.
By the spec, you meant the mega spec in the EOF repo, right?
The new one, yeah.
Did you run into any issues, any complications?
Well, we found that what's it called? Exchange opcode had a collision with some other opcode. We opened an issue, and now I guess it's fixed in the spec. And there were some vague points about auxiliary data and what's it called? Recursive container validation in Create 4. Like, does it go all the way deep or does it stop at layer 1? For now, we coded it to go as deep as possible. And yeah, that's mostly it. If I find something else, I'll share in the R&D channel.
Sounds good. I saw those findings. Anybody has any comments to Ayman?
Just to remind both Nethermind and Best so that we have some state tests in test repo that you might want to try running. They cover create 3 and create 4 testing mostly, but it can be just like a simple test to check how you agree or not with EVM1. This is in this,
Oh,
in the PR. Oh, something.
also I remembered something. The call opcodes, the new ones for EOF, that doesn't have like gas limits and stuff like this, do they have the same opcode value as the previous ones, or they will have new ones?
I think the plan was to have new ones.
Yep, new
I
ones.
think we have space reserved for them. One argument for reserving new opcodes instead of overriding existing opcodes has to do with ZK implementations. Like I was talking with some of the devs to know about Linea. It would be easier if they had different opcodes. So when they arithmetize an EOF versus arithmetizing a legacy, it's the same loop because it's the same set of opcodes. So the validation is a different part of the ZK verification of the code. And then once the code's validated, they just take the trace and do what they do with their ZK stuff. And so they don't have to worry about whether they're in EOF mode or not for the most part.
Okay, so they are not assigned yet.
There is a table in the execution specs that has a reservation for them. Let me find that for you.
I think we did agree on the new numbers end of last year, or maybe actually middle of last year. We just probably never actually put the numbers into the spec.
Yeah,
I think
okay. So
EIP has up-to-date numbers.
okay, perfect. Motivation. Okay, nice. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's move on to our EVM. Dragan, do you want to give some updates?
Yeah, glad to be here. Yeah, last like 2 weeks something, I did analysis of EOF in general, just like overview what's going on, and I still need to start implementing it. I'm not sure if you saw, sorry, so the paradigm post about it. Yeah, we are still I still need to start working on it. So I am still at the beginning, but seems great. I have 2 questions, or maybe I need more clarification about the need of the jump F function and about potentially removing 64th part of the gas in the new calls. Other than that, it looks good, to be honest.
Yeah, I wanted to reflect on the 64th. So the calls 2.0, so all those new opcodes, the idea was that we don't make like an extreme number of changes beyond absolutely necessary. And we deemed that removing the gas field is the most important change, and then not having the return data is something we also wanted to have. But we didn't want it to change the gas logic too much, because once the opcode goes live, without being able to adjust the gas externally, we can always change the gas logic. So we could always later remove the 64th rule or redesign all of that once it's not inspectable. That was the idea. We just wanted to minimize. But I wonder, in the client implementations, when you do actually implement this, do you implement the new call opcodes as part of the same handler, which does all the complex versions of the existing ones, or is it brand new helpers, aka what difference does it make to have this 64th rule from an implementation perspective?
For implementation, it's like different function. It's like totally different. It's not that I'm not asking about implementation, I'll ask in general, but you gave like good explanation, like the path forward. Let's leave it as it is, and if you want, we can remove it later because we don't have gas inspection, and that's like real big deal. I was just asking, should we like include it? Should we include that change now? I'm not sure what that change is, but by just removing that gas, just having like fixed gas, something like that. But yeah, I can agree with like, let's do it later. For now, let's leave what we already have. I just want to point out that we could potentially remove it. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're growing more concerned about the scope changes, right? And this is like yet another scope change. Yeah, maybe we should just finish the round, and during the spec discussion we can get back to JumpF and maybe also discuss the 64 tool a bit more in depth.
Makes sense. Thank you.
All right, then someone from Epsilon. Well, actually, yeah, anybody have any response question to Dragon or the paradigm post?
Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later, because yeah. In general, what I would like to mention is like the bad things about EOF, but we can do that later.
Yeah, let's
in
do
the
that
call. Yeah.
here. All right, someone from Epsilon who wants to give the update on EVM1.
Yeah, we've merged a couple of things for EOF. So we merged DAPN and SwapN new implementations, and we've merged disallow and unreachable sections. And so that was merged into master, and create 3 and create 4 are still in the branch. And in that branch, we actually realized we have a bug, like we forgot to disallow deploy an EOF from legacy. So that was fixed today, and maybe that's the same problem that Dano encountered. So that was a fix in creation, and yeah, that's it, I guess.
All right, any comment, question? All right, then let's move on to maybe Barnabash. If I suppose you're DevOps, Panda Ops. If you have any update, please go ahead.
We are basically just expecting a time frame. We would like to begin testing EOF as much as possible. So I would be curious, when do you guys think it would be a good time to start up like DevNet 0 for EOF?
So ideally, we would need at least 2 clients fully implemented for that, right? That would be like a good start.
Yeah, that would be a very good start to have some kind of basic interop testing.
I think the best chance for that we have is Besu and Nethermind at this stage. Is that assumption correct, Ayman and Dano?
Yeah, we can get there. I would like a frozen spec before we get there, but we could start getting builds that can have that. As far as interop, I think we'll probably get more signal out of Martin's fuzz testing, which I think would be better, because I think more than a stable testnet, I think not getting any fuzz findings for a certain amount of time, I think, is a better indicator that we are fully compatible with each other. But one of the advantages a testnet would give once we get the compilers producing output is for them to go through all of the masses of Solidity code, compile those, deploy those, and wire those up into tests. So I think that is, the DevNet's going to be important for when we get the compilers outputting stuff for them to get a test base. So we're still going to need that too. But I think there's we need to get, Solidity and Viper to ship versions that compile down to EOF first, which we need a mostly frozen spec for?
For DevNet, we wouldn't need a frozen spec. You could just relaunch if some big
Yeah, we can keep
spec
relaunching
changes.
them. Yeah.
I mean, we can do very basic interrupt testing in kurtosis, which takes literally 5 minutes. So if we have some branches that would already work, then I can already spin that up in my local machine and see if we have basic interrupt working. But for like longer term tests, like other clients could also just sync up maybe to a public DevNet that could give some value also.
Okay. So I am pushing my changes. I need to push my recent batch up to Besu/mega-EOF. That's a branch on Besu that's going to have the mega EOF spec. So yeah, there's a branch in Besu you could use, but I don't think we'll get much interrupt right now because there's still a lot of warts on it.
Sure, just let me know.
I do think there's one other use case that DevNet would be useful for is transaction tests. And I know that, we have some transaction tests, but on an actual network, we could just try submitting, various experiments on, the create transactions and all that. And that may be something of interest. All right, let's move on to spec updates and then discussions. Epsilon, somebody from Epsilon, do you want to give a brief update on the spec? Any of the spec changes?
Okay, I can give it a shot. There's a bunch of changes that I guess were more like editing, but there are also some questions that we need to answer, which is one of them is already mentioned, is the JumpF. So maybe you could start with that, although I don't have any comments on that.
Yeah, I can give an intro to this topic. So, yeah, after Dragon raised the concerns about whether JumpF is really necessary in this spec. So I've created an issue for discussion in the spec repo, and there was some discussion, and Daniel from Solidity and Charles from Viper chimed in there. So I proposed how it could work in case we didn't have non-returning functions and JumpF. And yeah, note that JumpF and non-returning function flag are kind of a package as I see it, like they can only work together. So yeah, we either get rid of both of them or we need both of them. So well, there was a proposal how we could like live without JumpF if we just use callf to a function which is non-returning and we don't have a flag, then this non-returning function will be just 0 outputs. And in case, yeah, if we want to imitate JumpF in this design, we could use callf stop sequence, and then compiler does not need to clean the stack before this callf. So the same guarantee that JumpF provides when jumping into non-returning function. So this is seems like a viable alternative. Then Solidity and Viper basically described what's their use case for JumpF. And the use case is mostly like making helpers that extracting some shared code among several code paths into a helper, which can be either non-returning when it ends with revert, for example, which is like a common, like handling in errors and then reverting with different messages. Or it can be returning, so ending with redf. This might be useful too, according to Daniel. And basically they want to to keep as little overhead for this as possible, because in legacy they solve similar problems with basically zero overhead, so just doing a jump into such a like subroutine. And also possibly tail call optimizations are possible with jumpf, but as I understand, this is not something that exists in compilers. This is something like for future, which can be enabled with jumpf. So yeah, overall, like this extra overhead that we would have without jumpf and non-return flag, like if we use callf stop instead, this is like an extra byte in the code, which might be significant if it's used like many times in the code. And also this callf, unlike jumpf, consumes the slot in the call stack, which might be also significant. At least like this is something the compiler needs to take into account when doing this kind of extracting the helper. So it's an extra pain for compilers, at least to take care of this. And jumpf allows to just use jumpf and don't think about it, because it doesn't increase return stack. And another argument which I think is important is that so non-returning flag allows for validation to detect the code that is unreachable after calling the non-returning function. So the code after calling for jumpf into non-returning function is unreachable in practice. But if we don't have this flag, then this code will be considered reachable by validation, and this is not really nice. It's like it means, yeah, this code will need to be validated, though it doesn't have to be, but it will need to be. And there might be like some errors like stack underflow in that section of code, and then the entire code isn't valid, which like it's not really a good situation, I think. So, or like in general, I think that this non-return flag and jumpf makes this spec and makes the stack validation complete design in a way. So that's my view. I'm mostly in favor of keeping it, although I think complexity is significant, because this stack validation around jumpf and non-return is a bit tricky. And also this validating that function is really non-returning when it is declared as such. This is also like another part of this complexity. Yeah.
The biggest question that I had with callf is like, callf is like the purpose for all of that. For callf is optimization, and with any kind of optimization, it's like we're optimizing for the right thing. Is it really going to like help Solidity and Viper to like, I don't know, few percentages to speed up, or 5% or 10%? They still can call ordinary functions to like do whatever they need for returning. I just like fetch, I don't know. So the purpose why I'm that focused on jumpf is to flush these things out. And I think it should come from like Solidity. I think Viper is not that, for Viper, jumpf is not that useful, and they can go without it. I just basically want to verify that this is going to be very useful and we should include it. That was, yeah, the main reason why I'm just pushing for like reasons what's going on with jumpf. In general, maybe the step forward for this is to basically wait for the Solidity analysis to see how impactful is that, and after that decide if it is good or not. I'm not sure what others think about this.
I mean, JumpF was explicitly requested by Solidity for the basically the terminating functions Andre mentioned. But I suppose if you do remove some of the stack validation requirements, then yeah, maybe we could do without it. But if your question is, you know, where it was originating from, it definitely came from Solidity as a request.
Yeah, the main, yeah, this is good information. Didn't know that. But the main question that I ask is like, why do they need that? What's the problem that they want to solve? Maybe is there a different solution that we can basically give them? From at least that GitHub issue 42, they said that relaxing some validation helped them with some of the cases. What I want to basically have in writing is, hey, we JumpF, we solving this, and we are like having, I don't know, an amount of better code or something like that in that sense. Maybe question for this group is this okay to ask? Do I step over the line? Basically in that sense.
So I can explain the original request and where this comes from. Maybe that helps. I think some of it Andre mentioned too. But basically, it's not like it's not a gas savings. It's a code size issue. So in Solidity, you have in error handling, you have these helper functions generated which do revert. And at least in the design with the stack validation, at that time, this was discussed. So this goes back to over a year ago to the Cancun, was it Cancun? Anyway, December 2022 version of EOF. The stack validation requirements meant that if you would just call into any of these like terminating helper functions Solidity generates, Solidity would have to generate a version of that helper function for each call site, which has a different number of stack height. And JumpF was solving this by removing any of those issues, and the Solidity could have a single helper function. So by the design of EOF at that time, without JumpF, Solidity would have been extremely not useful. Likely having, you know, a significant amount of the code size occupied by these duplicate helpers.
Okay, that makes sense. Is the main problem basically what's now about use case? Do they need like to do something and return from that subroutine or return from like main call? Basically, if it's main call, they can just return from the call, just return, revert, whatever they need. If this sub call, maybe we need like different solution for that. Do they need basically, yeah.
They need both, according to them. Both can be useful for some cases.
Basically, yeah. JumpF like solves if you want to return for subroutine. Basically jump some stack. Other things seems that solvable by like they're all solved. I'm not sure. I'm just asking open-ended questions and basically gathering more information because I don't know about history. This is the like only AP that I found like a little bit not fitting in EOF in general. Maybe because I don't have full set information. In general, maybe asking Solidity for more like concrete, hey, we need this because of this, would give us more information to decide if you want this or not. Do others implementation like Dan or Andrew, are you okay with including jumpf as it is? Or maybe with the flag of non-returning flag?
I'm okay with it. I think the needs of the compiler are going to dictate which is more important to me, and I'm okay with it going either way. So
Alex, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Andre if there were like a lot of discussions on relaxing stack height validation, and that some version of that would have at least removed the terminating flag or the need for that flag. But I wonder, would any of those eliminate the need for jumpf, at least for this use case of jumpf? I'm not sure if there's any. What other use case Solidity imagines for jumpf? But if you do have jumpf, I mean, one thing to be clear, if you do have any of these instructions, I'm pretty sure people are going to find ways to use them, ways we don't imagine yet. But I wonder what other use cases Solidity was having in mind for jumpf beyond the basically the error handling functions.
So yes, stack validation is related, and with the new algorithm that we have, so the original issue that required jumpf is kind of solved. And so if you make these helpers as if you make them inside one code section, then you can already jump into them and address it in this way. But according to Daniel, so there's a place for both helpers that are inside code section and for those that are extracted into a separate code section. So I guess the need for jumpf got less with this new stack validation, but according to Daniel, it still provides some benefits for some cases. But yeah, there are no numbers, and like it's more like Daniel's intuition at this point, I guess. And yeah, to evaluate it fully, I guess they would need to implement EOF first and then measure.
So I suppose the general logic is that we can always pool features easily, getting closer to any of the rollouts. But adding new features is practically impossible, or at least we shouldn't aim to do it. With that in mind, given we always have this chicken and an egg problem that we won't have really good data from the compilers before they implement it, and many of the compilers are reluctant to implement it before there's kind of complete spec and some indication from all core devs that this is going to likely to go ahead. So with that in mind, I'm leaning towards that we just keep jumpf. We get everything implemented properly so that Solidity has the confirmation that this is ready, will implement it, can do the measurements, and I think we still have the option then to remove jumpf. But adding it, if we don't have it right now, adding it wouldn't be an option.
I would agree with that. And I would say, yeah, echo what Dano said. It's like Solidity dictates what they want. That's very strong statement, and I agree with that. Because we are building them to ease their work.
All right, do we have any other spec discussion we want to have? I do have one meeting related question I want to discuss at some point in the call. But do we have any other spec topics, or should we go into maybe discussing the paradigm post?
I can quickly go through the spec changes that we did or are considering doing. They are mostly smallish. One is that the data opcodes were moved to a different section because of the opcode conflict between exchange and data load. That's been merged into the EOF. I'm going to merge the PRs for the other places where it is relevant. There's this other discussion that's going whether the call to quote unquote opcodes should be also available in legacy. I posted the PR to EOF spec, which kind of goes the direction that they should not be allowed. But Andrei said that Alex, you should take a look at this, or anyone else that has any feedback. And anything else? I think those are the main points. And also that I know I've started slowly updating the EAPs to match the mega spec. And also we need the meta EAP, which was requested a couple of times. But I don't think I'm going to be writing it, so if anyone is up to it, then go for it.
Yeah, regarding the calls, I think I lean to agreeing to not roll them out in legacy, mostly because of complexity of testing, like impossible interaction with old calls with new calls, and it just sounds a bit like a separate new project to cover all this with tests. And yeah, investigate like potential implications in legacy, and just I would rather not touch legacy at this point. And if
And I think that's fair.
Yeah, if we still
Yeah.
decide, it also feels like we should champion for it separately, like mention it like at ACD, like also often, because everybody forgot about this detail by this point, and it feels like we might not have capacity for this.
To mention what? I missed a single word.
I'm just EIP process wise, we have to champion it for it separately, and separately from EOF if we want to roll it out in legacy.
Okay. So is it final to not allow them in legacy? Can we treat it as such? I think there's consensus.
Right. So I think the first pass, we don't put them in legacy. If we change our mind, we could always bring them into legacy, but I think there's a strong argument for saying if you want this feature, you have to come to EOF. I mean, there's no structural reason we can't, but there's similarly no need that I would see in legacy. It's neat to say, hey, we could do this, but I think it would be a faster path to success to say these are EOF only, and we don't change legacy at all.
Yeah, not changing legacy is also a principle because it's legacy. If we invite the possibility to change legacy, then we are not making it legacy really in a way from the very beginning. So it's philosophically it's also probably good to leave them out. Okay. And that's all I had, I think, on the spec updates.
Okay, any other feedback or question on the specs?
Maybe as a statement, I feel that the AIPs are like 90-95% done, but I think outside of this group, maybe a few more people, a lot of people don't know that. They think that the AIP are still like work in progress or not defined or still need a lot of work. Just saying for the people outside of this group that we should communicate that it's like close to 95-100%. Not this 100%, but it's like few small details are left to define.
We could put that on the website probably.
Makes sense.
I don't know.
Something in sense, hey, EOF are very close to finalized, and few more details are left for discussions. I would say it's finalized in sense that just details are left.
Yeah. I mean, we can have a list of the deliverables on the website. One of them being the mega spec, for example, which is we can treat as, I don't know, 99% finalized.
Yeah,
And then the
makes sense.
IPs are, we make up a number, and then the clients and such.
It is for like narrative so that people know that this is like ready to be included.
Yep.
I think everybody here already has implementation that need to modify a little bit, but yeah, other than REVM. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of testing, in case we do want to do another fork this year, we do have to have like a DevNet up by beginning of March, probably latest, with like EOF changes and possibly anything else on the CS side that might want to be changed. So like we have to have something working. It doesn't need to be the finalized spec, because even for 4844 we had like maybe 20 or 25 different DevNets because of the change in the spec. But it would be good to have some client releases aiming to have something ready to go by beginning of March latest, I would say.
I think readiness, spec readiness in that terms, I think we reached it, many months ago. Because many of the changes are, some of them are really just edge cases or simplifying or revising. But the one exception is the using like Lab 128. That's the only that would be the only change which would go really against us being kind of stable. So TLDR, if you're happy to make multiple DevNets, there shouldn't be any problem having like a March DevNet, in my view.
I
That's
don't
very
expect
big.
to just have one DevNet. Let's be clear about that, because there will be changes all the time, and I don't expect anything to be, even when it's finalized, I don't expect it to be like exactly how it is. Like as I said, the 4844 was finalized back in like, I think February, and then there was just change after change after change. So it might be different. I hope it's going to be different for EOF. I'm just saying that it's not uncommon to have a change in the spec as we iterate forward.
I think that's a really good question, to have something testable in basically 2 months. I would ask like Bess or Nethermime, nobody from Get, I think. Are they fine with that? REVM, I'm fine with that. I need to do some work, but yeah.
Sounds reasonable. That gives us 6 weeks to push to get something ready for testnet, which I think is achievable. Again, on the caveat that we're going to find bugs and do multiple testnets after that.
That's probably fine. But at least having been in that stage, hey, we can find bugs is like very, very big push. Nethermine, Ayman? Okay, he's not maybe here.
Yeah, yeah. Email, let us know if you have a different view regarding Nethermind and having a DevNet around March. But one comment about the DevNet, we discussed it earlier that maybe fast testing would yield better results. I do think a DevNet itself is just a different signal. It's more like a readiness signal, you know, that we got the implementations together. So I think from that perspective, it definitely is an important step to make. Of course, fast testing and all kinds of other testing are equally as important. Since we only have 6 minutes left, I wanted to very briefly discuss the timing of this call. Since now we overlap with the roll call, and you know, it seems like we're getting into the territory that we do have to probably sync up if we want to meet that March deadline. So should we move the call 1 hour later to avoid the conflict with roll call?
I can handle one early call a week.
If that's 1 hour later or earlier. Flex
I meant later.
later.
Yeah, I think we cannot really move it earlier if we
Yeah,
do want to
because
get
yeah.
Daniel on the call, because 1 hour earlier would mean the solidity
No.
still.
Yeah, I was just confused after what Dana said, but I think if it's later, then it's fine with me.
Okay, anybody strongly against moving this call plus 1 hours?
I'm cool with it.
All right, we'll update the calendar for the next one. The second question with the March deadline, do we want to keep a bi-weekly cadence, or do we want to maybe consider weekly cadence?
I was going to suggest changing the cadence.
I think we need weekly cadence, especially because we're missing some key people from this call. I think we need if we're sending a readiness signal, we need to send we need a be busy signal. I don't know what the
Yeah.
correct word for that is, and I think weekly meetings would do that.
Yep, agreed.
We're gonna need some people from all the ES, possibly.
Nice. All right, then we're agreed. I will ask Pooja to update the calendar entry. So it's going to be weekly starting next Wednesday, and it's going to start 1 hour later. All right, we have 3 minutes left. I'm not sure, Dragan, if we addressed everything from the paradigm post, or do you want to take an next 3 minutes to maybe explain some other feedback from there?
I think we did. The main, like, the bad thing that at least is like EOF not finalized as the spec. Basically saying to the community it's not finalized. The second thing is basically not having champion. The problem is from time to time, all core dev doesn't have like EOF get mentioned, but nobody is there to respond. That's the only two things that we can probably work on.
I think the
that
worst case of
heard
that
from-
was. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, that I heard from like other people, like EOF implementer that don't care about EOF to be in all core dev, or like to support their cause.
Yeah, I think the real problem with, you know, it was 3 weeks ago when I was on vacation and we couldn't get someone to be vocal about it. I think that was the perception that it's not, you know, championed or anything. But I was on family vacation and I'll be on all the calls going forward. So don't worry, I'll bang the drum on it if it needs to be banged.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it's pretty fine to other people like champion it or basically talk about it, but either we need to have voice on that meetings. I think that's it. I took 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And thank you,
given
Daniel.
we move to weekly, I think, yeah, this perception, I think going to change. In the last minute, Barnabas had a question whether the implementations are built on top of Deneb. So Dano, Ayman,
Yes.
please answer.
Frog actually is what I'm targeting mine. I need to do some changes on mine, but On the basis side, we need to plug prog in places and various things anyway, and I'll make sure that EOF's currently targeting prog. For the state test, if you use the prog word, it'll go to something we call future EIPs, but it's all wired up right now.
Awesome. And Chloe, you joined quite late, and I forgot to ask you. We have like 1 minute left. Do you have any feedback, any question to the group?
Oh, hi. Not really from my side. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, we are just about time. Any closing comments from anyone? All right, then. Don't forget, we're going to be weekly starting next week, and we changed the time. It was a great call. Thank you all. See you next week.
Bye, guys.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.